Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. I'd also like to extend a formal welcome to all of the new subscribers I've got from my Arkham Horror card game comparative unboxing between the original and the revised core. Once again, welcome to the channel, and thank you for subscribing. So after spending most of the summer in the Cthulhu mythos, we're going to take a bit of a break from the mythos and play some new games on the channel. Today we're going to debut our first deck builder on the channel as we play Aeon's End. In this game, we're breach mages trying to chase off some really dangerous monster while also fighting its minions off and trying to defend our hometown of Gravehold. We do this by accumulating ether and buying more powerful spells, gems, and relics. We'll take a look at that in a minute. As for the turn order, that's calculated. We figured that out from a turn order deck. So essentially what we've done with the turn order deck is we've built it with 2 player 1, 2 player 2, and 2 Nemesis cards, but we'll see all of that. We'll see all of that once we actually get into the game. So just as a quick look, that's the card that comes up if if it's player 1's turn. That'll be the card that comes up if it's player 2's turn, and then we'll see that for a Nemesis turn, and that would actually be a really bad stack of the turn order deck. So I'll give that a quick shuffle. But I really like the turn order deck because it captures the feel of a boss fight in an RPG in board game format. So anyway, let's dive into today's game. I'll finish giving that a shuffle and a cut. And we'll start off today's game by going through our Nemesis. Here's our Nemesis for today. We're starting off with Rageborne. He's supposed to be the introductory Nemesis for playing Aeon's End, but he's far from the easiest adversary that we'll have to deal with in the course of playing this game. So we see by his starting HP, he's got 70 hit points, and that's also represented by the dial over here. That's how we'll keep track of Rageborne's hit points. So there'll be a keyword on several cards from the Nemesis deck, which I've already pre-constructed, called Unleash. Each Nemesis will do something different on Unleash. In this case, Rageborne will gain 1 Fury token when he unleashes. There's also increased difficulty rules that you can use, but we're not going to use that today. But as far as the additional rules, another keyword that we'll see on some of Rageborne's specific cards is the keyword Strike. So we have a Strike deck that we'll be drawing from in that case. So when Rageborne strikes, the way we have to do that is we draw a card from the Strike deck and resolve it. Then we shuffle that card back into the Strike deck, and Rageborne loses 3 Fury tokens. So at the end of the Nemesis turn, something we have to be aware of. If Rageborne has 4 or more Fury tokens, Rageborne will strike once. So that means it will only have to deal with it striking once per turn, essentially. Unless we get something out of the Nemesis deck that just says Rageborne strikes, which I've seen and I've had it happen at some of the most inopportune times. But anyway, we'll see more of that again as the game goes on. But that's Rageborne. So now who are we playing? Well, let's drop down and we'll meet our mages. We'll start off with player 1. So when card for player 1 comes up in the turn order deck, we'll be turning to this mage for that turn. We'll be turning to Mist, the dagger captain. So each mage will start off with 10 health. They also have 4 breaches. So if a breach is open, you can prep a spell to it, and we'll see more of that when we actually get into the game. So breach 1 will always start open. For Mist, breach 2 will start with the opening to the right. So we can pay 2 ether to focus a breach, or we can pay the cost at the top to open it outright. Breaches 3 and 4 for Mist will both start with the opening to the bottom. So we have to have the opening, so we have to have the gold part on the back of the closed breach to the top before we can open it. So 3 and 4 will start off in the bottom position. If they were starting over in the right position, that means we'd have to focus it bottom, mid, left, top. Okay, we'd have to focus it 3 times before we could open it, or again, just pay the open cost outright to open it. And each mage has a special ability. So during your turn, one of the actions you can use is you can spend 2 ether to gain a charge token. That's what these will be. And there's also various effects throughout the game. We might have some of those active. We'll have to look at that when we go over to the market and see what the players will be gaining, or will be buying from. But Anyway, Mist's special ability, she needs 5 charges to activate her Divine Augury. Activate during your main phase, any ally draws 4 cards. Now, there's a slight difference there between any ally and any player. If an ability says any player, you can target yourself with that. But if it says any ally, you have to target somebody else. In this case, we only have one other mage that we'll see who we're playing with in a second. But let's go through Mist's opening hand. So the decks are pre-built. So the starting hand is constructed based on the list here. The way you're going to handle this, and I'll explain this a little bit more, is you'll put everything in your discard pile after you get done playing it for the turn. Unlike in other deck builders, and we'll see this with next week's deck builder, I'll let you know what that's going to be at the end of the video. Normal deck builders, you'd shuffle your discard pile and make it into your deck when you run out of cards. In this game, however, you basically just take your discard pile and flip it over, make it your draw pile. So you can you'll have to manipulate the cards in the game. You'll have to manipulate the order of your deck when you go to discard everything. But I'm getting off track, so let's take a look at the opening hand. So the first card in Mist's opening hand is a Garnet Shard. So it's a 0 cost to buy. We'll see that when we move over and look at the market. You have a choice of effects. You can either gain 1 ether, that's the currency we'll be using in this game to buy stuff, or you cast any player's prepped spell. Mist also comes with 3 crystals, so these just gain 1 ether card. These are starter cards. So that's all they do. And then the last starting card in her hand is a Spark. When you I'll show you how this works, but on cast, you deal 1 damage. So you have to prep the spell to one of your breaches first before you can cast it. But anyway, that will do it for Mist. Now let's move over and meet her partner. When we see player 2 come up in the turn order deck, we'll be turning to Mist's partner, Kadir. She's the Breach Mage Delver. They both start off with 10 health. Kadir's opening hand is only going to be different in terms of the shard she has. So Kadir starts off with the Emerald Shard. So she can either gain 1 ether or any player gains 1 life. That's something that's an either or. Her special ability is Otherworldly Gate. Activates during any player's main phase and it costs 5 charges, which you can see by the number of charges here. Activate during any player's main phase. That player may return up to 3 spells in their discard pile to their hand. That player may prep up to 2 spells to each of their opened breaches this turn. So normally we are able to prep only 1 spell to a breach, but if you use that ability, you're able to prep 2. There are some effects that will let you prep multiple spells to a breach. I believe the keyword for that is link, but I wouldn't swear to that off the top of my head. Anyway, as far as the configuration of Kadir's breaches go, like with Mist, she starts with her 1 open, her 2 breach in the left position, 3 in the down, and then 4 is actually in the left position for her as well. So she gets a little bit more progress on that opening breach. So that's who we're playing. Now what are we going to try to use to drive Rageborne away? Let's move over to the market and we'll see that. Here's the market of stuff we'll be buying from in this game. Before I get into this, I haven't talked about how we win or lose the game. So we lose the game if both of our mages are what's known as exhausted. I'll go through how that happens when we actually go through it. There are 2 ways we win the game, though. We win if we're able to reduce the Nemesis's health to 0. In this case, Rageborne has 70 health, as you recall. Or if we run the Nemesis deck out of cards, which is not impossible, but I'm not expecting it to happen. The other way we lose, actually, is Gravehold also has a life total. Gravehold, as you see here, starts at 30 life. If Gravehold gets reduced to 0, we lose. So we'll be using that dial to keep track of Gravehold's life total. So let's go through our market and see what we've got. So we've built the market with 3 gems, 2 relics, and 4 spells. So let's take a look at our gems first. First up, we have a Sifter's Pearl for cost of 3 to buy. Gain 2 ether. Each player reveals the top card of their deck and either discards it or returns it to the top of the deck. Then we have the Jade for 2 ether, which is very simple, gain 2 ether. So that'll be additional currency Last up for the gems, we have the Leeching Agate for 3 ether. When you gain this, gain 1 charge, and then gain 2 ether. So that's all of our gems. Let's take a look at our relics next. Next up, we have the Flexing Dagger. So the next time you focus or open a breach this turn, it costs 3 less, or destroy this to deal 1 damage. So this will be good to actually use for the focusing or opening a breach in the early game. In the end game, we can use that to throw away to chip away for more damage. Then we have the Eternity Charm here for 3 ether as well. So focus your closed breach with the lowest focus cost. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You may prep one of the revealed spells. And we've got some doozies here from the look of it on our spells, so let's jump in and take a look at the spells next. So first up we have Spectral Echo for 3 ether. Cast to deal 2 damage. You may destroy a card in your hand. You may means you don't have to do it, but you can if you wish to. Then we have Ignite for 4 ether. On cast, deal 2 damage. Any ally gains 1 charge. So we'll be hopefully using that to fly through getting charges and being able to use our special ability a lot. Then we have our most expensive spells and cards in the reserve in the market, period. So Feral Lightning for 5. This spell may be prepped to a closed breach without focusing it. Cast, deal 3 damage. So that'll be something I'll explain a little bit more when we actually get into player turns. Normally you can focus a spell to an open breach or to a closed breach if you focus it as well. But again, I'll explain more about that when we get into player turns. Our last spell up, we have Scorch for 5 ether. On cast, deal 4 damage. If this damage causes a minion from the Nemesis deck to be discarded, any ally gains 2 charges. So again, hopefully another way that we can use to go through getting our charges quickly and being able to use our special ability a lot. So, now that we've got that all set up, we're ready to get this show started. So let's go through our turn order deck. We've already given it a shuffle and a cut on camera. So we'll go ahead, draw our first card from it, and we start off with player 1. So let's go ahead and drop down to Mist, and we'll get this show started. The player turn actually works in 3 phases. So we start off with the casting phase, where you may cast anything that you've prepped to an open breach, and you have to cast anything that you prepped to a closed breach. Place cast spells on top of the discard pile as you cast them. So as you see, we're at the start of the game, so we don't have anything prepped. Now, so we're going to go ahead, we'll prep our Spark. So we have to prep it first before we can cast it. Then we look at the rest of our hands. We have 4 to buy, or 3 and cast any player's prepped spell. So I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to spend 2 of the ether. We're going to gain the 1 from the Garnet Shard, so we have a total of 4. I'll go ahead and focus her 2 breach for 2. And then for the other 2, we'll grab a Jade for Mist so we can get her ether spend going. And then once you've done everything you want to in the main phase, we'll go ahead and move everything to the discard pile in whatever order we want. I think I want the Garnet Shard on top. Then we'll draw from her opening, then we'll draw her from her deck. We'll end up with a hand of 3 sparks, or 3 crystals and 2 sparks. So we'll use those on her next turn. Coming up from the turn order deck next, we have our first Nemesis Turn. So let's go spend some not-so-quality time with Rageborne. Alright, the way the Nemesis Turn works is we start off with resolving anything that would already be in play. But again, first Nemesis Turn of the game, so we have nothing in play. So we resolve from oldest to newest, and that's the order I'm going to use. So our first card off of the Nemesis deck, we have Agony Field. So to discard, destroy a card in hand that costs 2 ether or more. Power 2. So that means it's going to get 2 power tokens, and we have 2 turns to get rid of this, or the power 2 happens. Unleash. Any player discards 3 cards in hand and then draws 1. So So this is very early on in the game, which means cards that cost 2 or more are probably going to be hard to come by. Of course, we could also end up getting 2 Nemesis turns in a row and just not being able to deal with this. But that will do it for the first Nemesis turn, so let's see where we're going next on the turn order. We get another player 1 card, so we'll move back over to Mist and see what she's doing. Alright, so we're back here with Mist after getting another player 1 card from the Nemesis deck. So we'll start off with the casting phase, and we'll go ahead and ping Rageborne for 1, so that'll bring Rageborne down from 70 to 69. I'm not expecting it to be like an explosive damage burst. What I'm hoping for is kind of a steady chipping away. But knowing what I know about Rageborne, that might not be the easiest thing in the world to do. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at Mist's turn. So we're going to play 3 crystals, and then we have 2 sparks. So we'll start off by opening her 2 breach with 2 of the ether. Then we will prep both sparks, and I always get this wrong, so... okay, any ether not gained on a turn is lost. Okay, never mind. I just wanted to make a quick rules clarification. So we spent 2 to open her 2 breach. Then we prep the 2 sparks. The other ether is going to float away. So these will go to the top of the discard pile. Then we'll flip this over and draw a new hand for Mist. And we see the way we stacked it earlier. We ended up with the Jade on top, and the Garnet Shard, and 3 crystals. So we're going to have a big ether turn coming, assuming we don't end up having the power go off from Rageborne. But let's see what we're getting from the turn order deck. We're getting player 2, so now let's go take our first look at Kadir in this game. Alright, so here's our first look at Kadir in the game. So as you see, we've got our Emerald Shard here, which we're going to probably use for another ether, since everybody's at full life right now. Then we've got 3 crystals, and we've got a spark, which I'll prep to our 1 breach. So looking at the market, for 3 crystals, or for 3 ether, I'm actually going to go ahead and give Kadir an Eternity Charm. So it's going to let her focus the lowest closed breach with the lowest focus cost, then reveal a top card of 3 cards of her deck, and then prep 1 of the revealed spells. So we're going to be buying the plan is we're going to be buying a lot of spells with Kadir. So we'll move everything into the discard pile, and then we'll draw her from her starting deck of the 3 crystals and 2 sparks that we saw earlier. So let's take a look at the turn order deck, and we'll see what we're getting here. Player 2, so it's a good thing we're right here. So that's a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing that we're right here and we get to go again, but we know that the last card is a Nemesis card. And we know 2 things that could potentially be problematic. We know that last card is a Nemesis deck in the turn order deck, and we're getting ready to reshuffle the turn order deck again. So anyway, we will start off with the casting phase for Kadir, which will ping Rageborne for another 1, bringing him down to 68. 68, there we go. We'll let that focus. And then moving into her prep phase, or moving into her main phase, we see she's got 3 crystals and 2 sparks. I'll spend the 3 ether to open her 2 breach outright. So as it might be a little hard to tell, but let me zoom in here on this. So as a breach is in the position, you can either pay the inner cost to rotate the breach, or you can pay the cost at the top to just open it outright. In this case, I'm spending the 3 ether to open that 2 breach outright for Kadir. Then I'm going to prepare 2 sparks to her closed breaches, or to 2 open breaches. Then we'll move the crystals into her discard pile, and then similar to what Mist did, 3, 4, 5, we'll go ahead and draw a new hand. So we see here we've got the Eternity Charm in hand, then the Emerald Shard and 3 crystals. So we'll have probably another buying turn. That'll do it for Kadir, and gee, I wonder what this card's going to be. Hey, look at that, an anticlimactic Nemesis Turn. But it should be pretty uneventful, so let's move over to Rageborne and see what he's doing. Alright, so Rageborne's turn. As I mentioned, we're going to use this order for Nemesis cards. We'll probably end up making an S depending on how stacked the Nemesis area gets. But anyway, Agony Field will tick down, so that has 1 power token left on it. And then for a card from the Nemesis deck, we get Bleed Static. No way to get rid of this. So power 3, the player with the most prepped spells suffers 2 damage for each of their prepped spells. Good thing that is a tier 1 card. It's faint down here, but you can actually see in the lower right-hand corner down here that there's a number. We'll see that on the other cards as well. This is a tier 1 card, so in theory it should go off before we get rocked pretty hard. But anyway, again, an uneventful Nemesis turn, so let's move back up top and we'll take a quick look at where things are at. So just as we take a quick overall look at the board before we shuffle the Nemesis deck, we see that we've actually managed to ping Rageborne down for 2 damage. Both of our mages have 2 spells prepped to their breaches, but we have 2 power cards, one of which is getting ready to go off on the next Nemesis turn. But I think as long as we come up before the Nemesis, we're probably going to be able to stop the Agony Field from going off, because that's also... The Fury token right now isn't going to be a big problem, but I'm more worried about getting our hand ripped apart. So it's probably going to be better to sacrifice 1 card than it will be to have to lose 3. And then basically net losing 2 cards from that. So I'd rather net a loss of 1 than net a loss of 2. So let's go ahead and give the Nemesis deck a quick shuffle, and then we'll see what our next turn is going to be. And round 2 will start off with player 2. So we'll move down to K-Deer and see what she's going to do. Alright, so we start off with the casting phase. We'll cast both these sparks and we'll ping Rageborne for another 2 to bring him down. Come on, there we go. Down to 66 HP. Then we'll go ahead and oh, that's destroy? Do we just let that... For some reason I thought that was a discard, but yeah. I think we actually just destroy this, even though I'd much rather use it here. I'm going to destroy that to the Eternity Charm to stop the Agony Field from going off. Again, I'd rather lose 1 card than lose 2, which gives me 4 ether to buy with. So moving over to the market, I think for 4... I'll go ahead and we will grab this. Actually, we'll grab 2 Jades so we can start getting ether production going. So we'll put those in there. Then I'll stack it with the Emerald Shard on the top. And then we'll draw a fresh hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we'll flip it over, and I think we're getting a spark out of this as well. So yep, we are getting a spark. So in addition, we have, it basically looks like the starting deck again. So it's 3 crystals and 2 sparks. So with that, let's see what the next card is from the turn order deck. We have player 2 again. So it's a good thing we're here, which means we can go right into K-Deer's next turn. The only bad thing about that is she won't be going again now through the rest of the go through the Nemesis deck. But anyway, as I mentioned before, her hand is 3 crystals and 2 sparks. I will go ahead and prep the sparks to both of her opened breaches. And as we move back over to the... well, looking at the situation, I think I'm actually going to go ahead and get her a charge. I know we're going to need that ability later in the game, so I want to start trying to charge it up now. Go ahead and draw. We'll discard the crystals, 2, 3, 4, 5. And her opening her hand now, we're going to have a big ether turn. because we got 1 spark and then we've got 6 to buy with. But again, we're not going again until we get this run through the Nemesis, through the turn order deck. So let's see what we've got coming up next. We have player 1, so we'll move over to Mist. Alright, so we've already drawn 3 player cards on this run through the turn order deck. This is both good and bad. Good that we get to do a lot of setup and hopefully do some damage, but bad because now we're going to have, in the next 3 turns, we're going to have 2 Nemesis turns. So that's kind of how that all washes out. But anyway, into our casting phase first, we'll ping Rageborne for another 2 with both of these sparks, bringing him down to 64. And then as we look at Mist's hand, we see gain 1 ether or cast any player's prepped spell, or that would leave us with 6 to buy with. I think we're going to take the 6 to buy with. So we'll go ahead and we'll we'll focus the 3 breach for Mist. And then for the other 3, we'll go ahead and grab a Leeching Agate. So that will give Mist a charge. That's when you gain a charge. So there's Mist's charge. And then that will do it for Mist. So let's draw back up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And flip this over. 5. So we gain a spark from flipping that over. Then the rest of Mist's hand is also 3 crystals and another spark. So let's see what this card is from the turn order deck. Okay, a Nemesis card. So let's move up to Rageborne and see what he's doing for this turn. I'm hoping for a very uneventful turn here. It'll start off uneventfully enough as Bleed Static ticks down. But let's see what we're getting from the Nemesis deck. Provoke. Uh-oh. So 5 health to kill this. So we'll grab a 5 for that. And then Persistent. So while this is still in play, Gravehold will suffer damage equal to the number of Fury tokens Rageborne has. So right now that's only 1, thankfully. But that has potential to turn into a problem in a hurry. But thankfully a pretty uneventful turn. Let's see what we get from the turn order deck. Another Nemesis turn, so basically it's the thing I was worried about, just essentially in reverse. So we are getting 2 Nemesis turns in a row. But Bleed Static ticks down. And then Provoker, because we have 1 Fury token, Gravehold will actually suffer its first damage of the game and go down to 29 health. So that's not too bad right now, but as the Fury stacks keep growing, that thing's going to need to go quick. But let's see what we're getting off the Nemesis deck again. Uh-oh. Unrelenting Ire. Unleash. Oh, geez. Okay, this is going to be a problem. So we are going to be... So we unleash, which means Rageborne gains 1 Fury token. Then if there are 2 Nemesis turn order cards in the turn order discard pile, unleash 2 additional times. Well, as we've seen, we've taken 2 Nemesis turns in a row, so we'll just grab the discard pile here real quick. And we see that we have 2 Nemesis cards in the turn order discard pile, so Rageborne is going to unleash 2 additional times. So that brings Rageborne up to 4 Fury tokens. Thank God we didn't have that when we had the Provoker out, but we are now at the end of the Nemesis turn, and Rageborne has 4 more Fury tokens, so he is going to strike. Which means we need the strike deck. So we'll give this a shuffle. And a cut. And this will be our strike card. Let's see what Rageborne strikes with. Frenzy. The player with the most open breaches suffers 3 damage. So we see that both of our players actually have 2 open breaches. So either one of them could suffer 3 damage. And the way I'm going to determine that... here we go. We have a coin. Actually, no, we'll do it this way. Heads will have Mist suffer the damage. Tails, Kadir will suffer the damage because they're both at 10 right now. Yeah. Well, I was going to try to catch it. I'll do the flip off camera and then I'll reveal the results on. We get heads. So Mist will suffer 3 damage. So there's the 3 damage coming off of Mist, bringing her down to 7. And now I think it's the Emerald Shard from Kadir actually starts to become a little more attractive for the gaining life option. But we'll go ahead and shuffle that back into the strike deck. And I'll take away Rageborne's 3 Fury tokens once I finish shuffling this up. I'll give that a cut. And then Rageborne will lose 3 Fury tokens. So that was a pretty bad Nemesis turn, but gee, I wonder what we're getting here. Hey, look at that, turn 1, player 1. So we'll drop back down to Mist and see what she's doing. We see Mist is hurting a little bit, but she's not in ultra dire straits right now. So, actually, this could be a problem because Bleed Static is going to go off on the next Nemesis turn. If I don't prep spells right now, Kadir is probably going to get hit, which actually I'm kind of fine with to spread the damage out a little bit. But we also need to get damage on that Provoker as fast as we can. So I will go ahead and prep both of these sparks. And then with 3 crystals for 3 ether, I will grab... let's go ahead and grab the... We'll grab a Sifter's Pearl, actually. So as we recall, this will give us 2, and then each player reveals the top card of their deck and either discards it or returns it to the top. So it's essentially a way to move things off. So we'll go ahead and move the crystals to the discard pile. Then we'll draw her hand, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we see we end up with a spark. We're going to end up with a big ether turn, or we could cast a spell, but all we have right now are sparks. So with that, we're through the turn order deck once again. So let's move back up top and see how things have changed. All right, so looking at the board, we've worked Rageborne down a little bit. I'm starting to wonder if the market might not be enough damage to get Rageborne down. But so looking at the board, each of our players have 2 sparks prepped. They both have 1 charge on the board. Let me move that so you can see they've each got 2 sparks prepped, 1 charge on their special ability. Mist took as we mentioned, Mist took the strike from Rageborne last turn. So we're in a pretty bad way. If the next card is the Nemesis turn right now, I think Kadir is going to be able to take the bleed static, the damage that will go off. If it's not, Mist is going to be in a very bad way. But looking at the Nemesis, we have the aforementioned bleed static that's getting ready to go off. It's faint, but there it is. Then we've got the Provoker, which is going to start causing us problems. That thing needs to go pronto. But let's go ahead and give the turn order deck a fresh shuffle. I'll get some light in here. And we'll see what turn we're going for next. Alright, so we are starting with a Nemesis turn. Okay, this works-ish. But let's move up to Rageborne and start round 3. Okay, so starting off with the Nemesis turn, as I mentioned, Bleed Static goes off, and Kadir is actually going to take the damage this time, just to kind of get them to roughly the same level of hurt. So there's 4 health coming off of Kadir. Then the Provoker becomes our leftmost card, and Gravehold will suffer another 1 because of Rageborne's 1 Fury token. So Rageborne is down, or not Rageborne, Gravehold is down to 28. I wish Rageborne was down to 28 right now. Then off the Nemesis deck we get... oh boy. Woven Sky. To discard 3 cards in hand. Power 2, Unleash. Any player suffers 4 damage. Okay, that's still a tier 1, but we definitely need to get rid of that as fast as we can. But that will do it, so let's take a look and see what's next on the turn order deck. Player 1, so we'll drop down to Mist and we'll see what she's doing. Okay, so as we start off with the casting phase, we're actually going to spark the Provoker for 2. So that'll bring the Provoker down to 3. Right now it's mostly chip damage, but I don't want that to linger for long, so I want to try to deal with that as fast as I can. Then looking at Mist's hand here, I can't let that Woven Sky go off. I'm also going to get one more run through the Nemesis. I'm also going to have one more Nemesis turn here before it goes off. So I think we're going to discard the Crystal, the Garnet Shard, and the Spark, as much as I don't want to do that, to discard the Woven Sky. So, like I said, as much as I don't want to do that at this early stage of the game, I don't want to have our team taking another 4 damage right off the jump. If that was Gravehold, I would have Gravehold take the 4 damage, but since it's one of us has to take the 4 damage, not happening. Then we'll have 4 Ether to buy with, and I think that will get us an Ignite, so we can deal 2 damage, and then any ally gains a charge. So in this case, it would be Kadir who gains the charge. Then we'll move those to the discard pile, and we'll draw 2 crystals and whatever's on the bottom of the discard pile. A big Ether turn coming for Mist, assuming we don't have her hand ripped apart again. Let's see what we're getting from the turn order deck. Player 2, so now we're over to Kadir. Let's see what she's doing. Kadir's casting phase is going to be very simple. We're going to spark the Provoker for another 2, so the Provoker is right now down to 1. There's the 2 health coming off of the Provoker. Then we're going to go ahead and prep a Spark to her 1 breach. Then we have 6 Ether to buy with, or 5 if I want to have a player gain a life, and I think I will have Kadir gain a life to go back up to 7. Come on, there we go. All right, so the Emerald Shard has been used. I'll put that to the side, and then we have 5 to buy with. So looking over here, I think 5 Ether will get us a. I think that will actually get us a Feral Lightning. I want to start getting our damage moving now as well. So we can prep this to a closed breach without focusing the breach, and then cast will deal 3 damage. So I'll stack it like this to move everything else back to the discard pile. And then we'll draw 2 more crystals and whatever's on the bottom of the discard pile, which is 3 more crystals. So a very uneventful turn coming for Kadir. Probably just another buy something big turn. Anyway, let's see what we're getting from the turn order deck next. We get player 1, so we're back over to Mist. Let's see what she's doing. Unfortunately, we're going to have one more turn of chip damage from the Provoker. So we're going to play out all of her cards to give her a total of 6 Ether. Then each player reveals the top card of the deck and either discards it or returns it to the top. So Mist will reveal a crystal, which she'll discard. Kadir will reveal a Spark, which we need all the damage we can get right now, so I'm actually going to leave the Spark there. Then we have 6 to buy with. 3, I think, will focus her 3 breach. And then the other 3 will get her another Leeching Agate. So we'll give her another charge here in a second. Put that in her discard pile. Then another charge for Mist. Then we'll move all of her gems to her discard pile with the Sifting Pearl going on the bottom, so it's essentially closest to the top of the deck when we flip it back over. Looking at her hand, we will see a big damage turn if I can find a way to get that 3 breach open, which I probably can't. Anyway, next card from the turn order deck. is player 2. So that'll bring us back over to Kadir. Let's see what she's doing. First things first, Kadir's going to put a stop to the chip damage from the Provoker. So she's going to spark the Provoker down for its last hit point. So there's that. Then the Provoker has been defeated. Now we'll take a look at her hand as we see, oh, that's right, we had 5 to buy with. So with that, I think we will grab her. I think this will be her second... I think this will be her second 5 cost, actually. We'll grab a... We'll actually grab a Scorch. Now that we've had to pause and kill a minion, we're probably going to need to start doing more of that. Also, we should probably work on getting her 3 breaches. We should probably start working on getting both of their breaches open. 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll actually get a little bit of help with that next turn, but we're not going to get a lot. We're going to get more damage than anything this turn from the looks of it. But let's see. I wonder what's coming out of the Nemesis of the turn order deck here. Hey, look at that. It's a Nemesis turn. So let's move up to Rageborne and see what he's up to. Alright, so we see once more Rageborne's board is completely empty. So let's see what we're getting from the Nemesis deck. Cleave. Rageborne strikes. Oh joy. Alright, so when Rageborne strikes... Actually, this is kind of good, because yes, we're going to get rocked, but Rageborne's also going to lose all of his tokens. So let's see what strike we get. This will be her strike card. Gravehold suffers 5 damage. That's probably the best strike we could have gotten right now. Gravehold is still mostly at full strength. So 23. Rageborne will lose his Fury token, and then we'll shuffle that Devastate back in to the strike deck. Give that a cut. And now that we're through the turn order deck once again, let's move back up top and we'll revisit how things have changed. So as we look at the board currently through the turn order deck again, we see that our board is completely empty. We're starting a slow recovery process from a couple of Nemesis cards that kind of knocked us back on our heels a little bit. Thankfully, as we zoom up to see Rageborne, we see that his board is just as empty, but he's still gotten most of his health. He's still up at 64. So we've clearly got a long way to go. But let's shuffle up the Nemesis, the turn order deck, and we'll see where we're starting for round 4. Alright, we'll give that a cut. And we are starting with player 2. So let's jump down to Kadir and see where she's going. Okay, once again we see nothing to cast or nothing to work on here. So we're going to start with 4 Ether, which I will use to focus her 4 Breach. Then I'm going to prep a Feral Lightning to it, which I could have prepped it to the 3 Breach without focusing the 4 Breach first. But again, we need to start getting our breaches open. Then I'll prep her 2 Sparks to her 2 open breaches. And then we'll move the Jades to the discard pile. And we'll draw a Crystal and an Emerald Shard, which we'll probably use for healing, along with whatever's on top of the discard pile. Spark, Scorch, and Crystal. Okay, that seems like a good start, so let's see what we're getting next. We get a Nemesis Turn order card, so let's move up to Rageborne and see what he's going to do to us. Alright, so we're up here with Rageborne. As we can see, Rageborne's board is completely empty, but let's see if that changes coming out of this Nemesis card. Oh geez. Pulverizing Ray. Power 1, and this is our first tier 2 card, so the cards are going to start getting more and more powerful. So Power 1, Gravehold suffers 18 damage. The players may collectively discard up to 6 gems. For each gem discarded this way, prevent 3 of that damage. Oh dear, and that's a Power 1, so the next Nemesis turn, that's going off. which means we probably need to hold our gems to wait for it. So as we look, we see that... Okay, this is Mist's hand. She has 2 gems in hand. Kadir has... Kadir is 3, so we're going to have... So Gravehold's unfortunately going to take a little bit of a hit, but there's really not much we can do about that right now. But let's have a look at our next turn order card, and we'll see what we're doing next. Wow, Nemesis Turn. Okay. So first things first, the Pulverizing Ray is going off. Coming back to our hands, I think Mist is going to have to pitch both of her gems, so her Garnet Shard and her Crystal. Move those to her discard pile. Kadir will pitch her Crystals, so that's a total of 4 gems, which means Gravehold only suffers 6 damage. So that brings Gravehold down to 17. Wow. But that basically means we're not doing any buying of anything this turn. So, from the Nemesis deck we get... Oh, jeez! Dispel. Unleash twice. So, Rageborne gains 2 Fury tokens. And then the player with the most prepped spells discards their most expensive prepped spell. Yuck! So that's actually Kadir with 3 prepped spells, and we lose our Feral Lightning. That hurts. So not only do we have to lose our gems, we also lose some of our best damage capabilities. The only good news I take out of that, though, is we won't be seeing the Nemesis again until we go through the rest of the turn order deck. That was bad. That was a bad couple of Nemesis turns. But let's see what we've got here. Player 1, so we'll drop down to Mist and see what she can do to recover from that. So here we're going to have the most epic of turns that we've ever seen with Mist. A turn that's going to completely change the course of our game here. And try to turn everything completely around for us. Prep 2 Sparks. I know, anticlimactic, but hey, what are you going to do about it? So let's see if we can hopefully draw something a little better. Okay, we might be picking up some better stuff. So we're getting an Ignite. We're getting a lot of Ether. And whatever this card is. Another Crystal. So we're going to have a decent amount of Ether coming this turn. Looking at our hand, I think we're going to have 5 coming. So, yeah. Which is probably going to be opening a breach. Well, I don't know what the turn is going to be yet. But let's see what we've got here. Player 2, so we'll move back over to Kadir. Casting phase first for Kadir, pinging Rageborne for another 2. This wouldn't have been too much better, but it would have been nice to have the extra 3 damage from the Feral Lightning. So here we actually do get some pretty good spells that we're prepping. So we're going to prep the Scorch and the Spark. So the Scorch, as we recall, is deal 4 damage. If this damage causes a minion from the Nemesis deck to be discarded, an ally gains 2 charges. Then the Emerald Shard we'll use to have Kadir gain a life. So that will do it from Kadir. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As we look at our hand, we see that we've got a lot of Ether coming this next turn. So the end of the turn order deck will be player 1. So we'll move back over to Mist and see what she's doing. Alright, so the casting phase for Mist starts with sparking Rageborne for another 2 to bring him down to 60. God, this is slow going. And let's see what she's got in her hand. So, okay, we've actually got a decent hand. So we'll prep the Ignite and the Spark. So Ignite, cast, deal 2 damage. Any ally gains a charge. Then we've got 5 to buy with. Actually, you know what? Let's do that in a different order. So I am going to still prep the Spark, but I'm going to spend 3 instead to open her 3 breach. So as we see here, we'll take a first look at our 3 breach. Opened breach, so any spell that we cast from this breach now deals 1 damage, plus 1 damage on cast. So I'll prep the Ignite to that 3 breach instead. Then we have 2 more to buy with, which looks like it's going to be charge number... Is it going to be a charge, or are we going to grab something else with it? It would be a Jade or a Flexing Dagger, or a charge. I think since we get to 5 pretty easily, and that's the top of our market curve, I think we're just going to get another charge here. So we'll put that on Mist. Then we'll move everything to the discard pile. We'll put the crystal on the bottom. And we'll draw 2, 3, 4, 5. And Mist. Looks like Mist is going to have a big ether turn coming up. But with that, let's move back up top and we'll see how things have changed. Back up top to see how things have changed again. Yes, as you can hear in the background, the air conditioner's on. I've gotten pretty warm. So, anyway, things have changed a little bit here. So as we see, Mist's 3 breach is now open, and I've got an Ignite prepped to it. I had to bring Kadyr's charge back because I flicked it off the table earlier. Speaking of Kadyr, she's got a Spark to prep to her 1 breach, and a Scorch prepared to her 2 breach. Both of our mages are at 7. Actually, no. Kadyr's at 8 health, Mist is at 7, and Mist has 3 charges. Looking up at Rageborne again, we see that Rageborne's board is thankfully empty. That's actually Mist's hand, not anything on Rageborne's board. And Rageborne's still at 60. Gravehold got rocked on that pulverizing beam, though. Gravehold is down to 17, so we're in okay-ish shape, I would say, but I think we're far from turning the corner here. But let's go into the turn. Let's go back to the turn order deck, give it a fresh shuffle, and we'll start round 5 with player 1. All right, so we'll drop down to Mist and see what she's doing. Mist is going to start in the casting phase by hitting Rageborne for our biggest burst of damage so far at 4 damage. So that'll bring Rageborne down to 56 from 60. And additionally, Kadyr will gain a charge and go up to 2 charges. So there's the charge going over to Kadyr. Then looking at her hand, we've got 7 ether, and then each player gets to reveal the top card of their deck and either discard it or return it to the top. So on top of Mist's deck, we have a crystal, which will go. Kadyr has a Jade, which I think will stay. Alright, then 7 to buy with, huh? I think we'll actually go ahead and prep her 4 breach for 4. And then for 3, we'll buy another Leeching Agate to give her 4th charge. So there's that. Her 4th charge. So that will do it for Mist. We'll put everything like that. Then we'll draw 2, 3, 4, 5. I see a couple sparks coming at least. Okay, so we have a couple sparks, a Leeching Agate, Garnet Shard, and a crystal. Alright, we'll use those later. Next up from the turn order deck, we have player 2, so let's move over to Kadyr and see what she's doing. Kadyr is going to lead off her casting phase by hitting Rageborne for 5 more damage. This damage is obviously not causing a minion from the Nemesis deck to be discarded, so we don't have to worry about the 2 charges part. 5 damage to Rageborne brings him down to 51. Alright, and then we have, like I said, we have a big ether turn here, so we have 6 ether, which I think 4 of which will open her 4 breach, so just like the 3 breach, we also get +1 damage on cast. And then Kadyr will pick up her 3rd charge. So we'll stack it like that. Then we'll manipulate the discard pile to put the Jade on deepest into the discard pile. We'll draw the Jade that we revealed earlier from the Sifter's Crystal. A Sifter's Pearl, actually. Then we'll find a Spark, Feral Lightning, and 2 more crystals. Alright, let's see what we get from the turn order deck. Player 1, which moves us right back over to Mist. Okay, so we look at Mist's hand. We've got a very unexciting hand, so we're going to be gaining 4 Ether, or it would be 3 and cast any player's prepped spell, but nobody has any spells prepped right now. Mist will coming out of this phase, though, so it'll be... We'll prep 2 Sparks, one of which will go on her 3 Breach. Then 4... We could get the last charge... Last charge, draw for Kadir. I think the better idea there is going to be to focus her 4 Breach. So we can open that next time we have enough Ether to do it. So... We'll go ahead and discard those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll see that Mist can open her 4 Breach on her next turn. We'll have to see if we want to, though. But now we have to be careful again, because we're in a similar situation that we were a couple rounds ago, where we ended up having 3 player cards early in the run through the turn order deck, and we ended up with 2 Nemesis turns in a row. We're starting off on that same track with the Nemesis turn, so let's move up to Rageborne and see what he's doing. Thankfully, this playthrough against Rageborne has been a little minion light, but we're still definitely getting hit hard. So let's take a look and see what we've got coming out. Blood Cry. To discard, lose 4 charges. So that'll be 1 player, which basically means 1 special ability will get bent. Power 2, unleash 4 times, which, oh boy, that's going to give Rageborne... That would give Rageborne 6 Fury tokens if that goes off. Which, I'm not sure I want to let that happen. So, I think we're going to have Kadir going again. We might have to just shut that off. But let's see what we've got here. Similar to the situation we had last time, we end up with 2 Nemesis turns in a row before Kadir gets a turn. So Blood Cry ticks down. Thankfully, we are going to have 1 more turn, and that's going to be Kadir. She's probably going to have to get rid of that Blood Cry. But let's see what new card we get. Scorn. Uh-oh. So 9 health, persistent. Gravehold suffers 3 damage, or unleash twice. That thing's probably going to need to go. That thing's probably going to need to go PDQ. Because I really... Well, Gravehold, we can have Gravehold suffer a few hits while we deal with it. And we might have to do that. So, anyway, that will do it for this turn for Rageborne. Gee, I wonder what we're getting out of this turn order deck. Player 2. So let's drop down to Kadir and see what she's doing. I think our first order of business with Kadir is getting rid of that Blood Cry. So we'll spend those 2 Ether to gain a 4th charge, which I'll immediately lose the 4 charges to get rid of that Blood Cry, because unleashing 4 times does not sound like a lot of fun to me. So that'll make Scorn our most recent minion. Then I'll prep Feral Lightning to my 4 Breach, a Spark to my 3 Breach, and I've got 2 to buy with. Which I think 2 to buy with will be another Jade. So we'll put the other Jade on top, or on the bottom of the discard pile. 4, 5. And we see that we're going to have some spell casting to do next round. And we got a decent amount of Ether, but we're probably going to need life gain. But anyway, we're through the turn order deck again. Let's move back up top and just sum up how things have changed. So, looking at our Magi, each of them has a +1 breach open. Mist's 3 breach is open. Kadir's 4 is open. They're both still kind of holding steady on health. We just had to lose Kadir's charges to stop the Blood Cry from going off. Mist's Divine Augury is just about ready to go. And as we move up to Rageborne's board, we see Scorn has decided to join the party. He's going to need to go as point of order number 1. So I think for I think we can take him out on this round through the deck. We should be able to. But let's see where we're starting round 6. We're starting round 6 with a Nemesis, so let's move up to Rageborne and get this round started. Starting off with the Nemesis turn, we have Scorn, who can either have Gravehold suffer 3 damage or Unleash twice. Unleashing twice right now means Rageborne strikes at the end of the turn, which I don't want to do that right now. So we're going to have Gravehold suffer 3 damage, so that brings Gravehold down to 14. And then we'll draw a card from the Nemesis deck. We end up with... To depreciate. To discard, spend 7 Ether. Yuck. Power 2, Unleash twice. The player with the most expensive card in hand destroys that card, and then gains a card of the same type that costs less from any supply pile. That player suffers 2 damage. Yikes. That could cause a problem. Let's see, if that were to go off right now, and spoiler alert, it won't. Well, we'll get a 5 on Kadir. Remember, that's the top of our market. And a 4 for Mist, so it'd actually be Kadir right now. Thankfully, we're not going to have to worry about that. Can we even get rid of it right now? Kadir definitely can't, and Mist also can't. So that's going to be a problem, especially if we can't draw enough Ether to get rid of it. But let's see what we've got coming up here. Nemesis right off the bat twice in a row. So that's both good and bad. Bad because we're getting rocked here. Good because now we have enough time to try to deal with everything on the board. So once again, we'll have Gravehold suffer another 3 damage. And then Depreciate will tick down to 1. So the next time the Nemesis card comes up, that will go off. And then we get another minion. Yikes. So 9 health on this one. Persistent. The player with the lowest life suffers 2 damage, which right now would be Mist, or any player discards a prep spell that costs 3 or more. Yowza. So we'll get the 9 health for the Venomite. So we are in... So now we've got 2 very dangerous minions that need to get dealt with pronto. Question is, which one do we take out first? Actually, that turns into which one's going to kill us first. I think, honestly, Scorn is probably going to kill us first. So we should probably deal with him first. But let's see who's going to start on dealing with that. Player 1. So let's drop down to Mist and see what she can do about this problem. Alright, so we're going to start with the casting phase, and we're going to spark Scorn for 3 using a spark that came from a 3 breach. So we'll get the 3 health off of Scorn. That'll bring him down to 6. Then we'll prep, and looking at our hand, we'll prep an Ignite to breach to the 3 breach, Spark to the 2 breach, and then we have 4 more to buy with. 4 more to buy with up there. So 2 of which will be to buy her Mist's last charge, and then I'll use the 5 charges to have Kadir draw 4 cards. So let's see what Kadir is going to end up with. Basically, I'm trying to dig for Ether so I can get rid of that Depreciate. And I find 4 more Ether with what I've got in hand. I don't think that's enough. So, looking at her hand, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, it is enough if I use the Emerald Shard for Ether, and I think I have to in this case. Well, we're not too hurting on life, so I think I will need that for the Ether, but I'm getting ahead of myself. And then I'll start charging it up again. We'll give her another charge. Alright, so that will do it for that turn for Mist. Let's see what we're getting from the... Well, actually, before we do that, we'll move everything over to the discard pile. 3, 4, 5. Take a quick look at her hand. Actually, Mist, yeah, either one of them can get rid of that. So it doesn't matter whose turn comes up next. The only question is who's it going to hurt less to do it. So let's see who comes up next. We have player 2, so let's move over to Kadir. Alright, so we'll hit Scorn in the casting phase for 4/5 damage. The Feral Lightning's coming from a 4 breach, which will bring Scorn down to 1. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to have to use that for Ether as well. But we do get rid of Depreciate. That would cause problems if we let it go off. Then looking at our spells, we'll go ahead and prep the Scorch to the 4 breach, and then we'll prep the Sparks to the 1 and 2 breaches. Then we'll stack it. I actually like how it's stacked right there. So we'll flip this over. 2, 3, 4, 5. Taking a quick look at Kadir's hand. We had Big Ether and another Feral Lightning. So anyway, let's see what we've got here coming up. We're right here with Kadir, so this is going to be a decision to make. I don't want to waste the 4 damage, but I don't want to waste a 5 damage coming out of a 4 breach, even though it would get me 2 charges right out of the gate. So I think we're actually just going to go ahead and ping Scorn down for 1 with a Spark. So we'll finish him off. Then I'll start working on the Venomite. So I'll spark the Venomite for 1, and then we'll hit him for another 5 as well. So I'll stack it like that. Then we'll hit the Venomite for 5, bringing him down to 3, which means Mist can deal with him on her next turn. So as we look, we see another Feral Lightning, and I've got 6 up here that I can use to buy with, which I think 3 of which will focus the 3 breach, and the other 3 will go to get a Leeching Agate to give her a charge when she gains this. So we'll stack it like that, and then we'll draw 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we have a decent amount of Ether here, and a Spark that's going to be very anticlimactic. Speaking of anticlimactic, wonder what this turn order card is. Hey, look at that, it's player 1. So let's move over to Mist, and we will see what she's doing. Mist is going to start by finishing off the Venomite with her Ignite. So we'll hit it for 3 damage, and then Kadir will gain a charge. So we'll put the charge on Kadir, discard the Venomite. Then we'll go back to work on Rageborne, and hit him for another 1 with the other Spark, so bringing him down to 50. Then looking at her hand, we see it's going to be a big Ether turn, which we'll have a total of 2, 4, 6, 8 Ether. And then we also got a Sifter's Pearl. So on top of Mist's deck, we have a Crystal, which will go. And on top of Kadir's deck, we have a Crystal, which will also go. Okay, so 8 to buy with, which I think 4, which will open her 4 breach. So now Mist has got everything ready to go. And then her other 4 will get her another Ignite. So we've seen that before to deadly effect, which means we flip everything over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Taking a quick look at Mist's hand. Okay, we see decent amount of Ether, couple Sparks. But anyway, we're through the turn order deck once again. Now let's move back up top and just revisit the board. Job number 1 this round is going to be to get Kadir's 3 breach open pronto, and then start getting spells so we can start putting a hurting on Rageborne. We do see Mist has all 5 of her breaches open, and she's back up to 1 charge on her ability after activating it last round. Kadir has 2 charges on her ability. Thankfully, Rageborne's board is pleasantly empty. Once again, that is Mist's hand, not anything from Rageborne. So let's go ahead and get this Nemesis deck reshuffled, and we'll start another round. Alright, and we'll start it off with player 2. So we'll drop down to Kadir and see what she's doing. Alright, we're going to start this casting phase by blasting Rageborne for 4 damage with the Feral Lightning to a 4 breach. So that'll bring Rageborne down to 46. So we're starting to get some damage up there. Then we'll use the Emerald Shard for Ether as well. So we've got 5 total up there, which will go ahead and open her 3 breach. So now all of them are open. And then we'll prep a Spark to the 4 breach. Move everything to the discard pile. We are picking up another crystal, which I'm not real thrilled to see right now. 4. We're definitely going to put some damage in on the next 2 turns from now. But let's find out where we're going with the turn order deck. Player 1, so we're back over to Mist. Let's see what she's doing. Mist is currently empty of spells, so we'll fix that by prepping a couple of sparks to her 3 and 4 breaches. Then we've got 4 to buy with, or 3 if I want to cast a prep spell, but I don't want to cast a prep spell right now. Instead, I'm actually going to just grab another Ignite for 4. So once again, deal 2 damage, and any ally gains a charge. So I'll put the Garnet Shard, actually I put the Leeching Agate, we'll stack it like that. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As we look at her hand, we see another couple spells come out. So we're going to start steadily working Rageborne down. But let's see what we get here. Player 1, good thing we're right here. So we'll hit Rageborne for another 4 with the... We'll hit Rageborne for another 4, bringing him down to 42. And we have 2 spells, which will prep the Ignite to the 4, the Spark to the 3, and we've got 4 Ether to buy with. Which... It's actually going to be 2 charges. I'm going to try... I've got something in mind here. I think we're going to have to probably win this game in one big burst, but I need to get a lot more spells into Kadir's deck for that to work. 4, 5. And we see that we're starting to... We're going to be generating big Ether on Mist's next turn. Now, the last 2 times I've had this happen, I've ended up with 2 Nemesis turns in a row. So I'm hoping this card is going to end up as being essentially like no whammy, no whammy, no whammy, because I don't want to see 2 Nemesis cards in a row again. I'm hoping I see Nemesis, player 2, Nemesis. But let's move up to Rageborne and see what he's doing. Let's hope the answer to the question of what is Rageborne doing this turn is diddly jack, but let's find out. Invoke Carnage. To discard, spend 7 Ether. Power 2, Unleash. Any player suffers 1 damage, and then 1 damage per Fury token. So right now that would be 1, 2, 3 damage. But we've got power 2, and we can actually get rid of that. Not with Kadir right now. Mist can get rid of it if she gets a chance to. But let's take a look at the turn order deck and see what we're doing next. Player 2, so that kind of breaks it up a little bit. Let's move down. Speaking of Kadir, let's move down to her. Alright, we start with the casting phase. Hit Rageborne for another 2, which brings him down to 40. This game feels like it's been... This run-through against Rageborne feels like it's been an exercise in patience so far. So, anyway, go ahead and do a lot of prepping. So we'll prep a Scorch to a 4, a Spark to a 3, and another Spark to a 2. And we've got 3 to buy with. which 3 will get... 3 will actually get a Spectral Echo, so we'll take our first look at that. Cast, deal 2 damage, you may destroy a card in hand. Alright, so that will do it for Kadyr's turn. Let's see what she's getting for fresh 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to have a big Ether turn coming up, which might not be a terrible thing, but we have to see what we get here. Actually, we do need... Do we have enough Ether here? So 1, 2, 3... Oops, that is in her hand. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, we can deal with the... Either player can deal with Invoke Carnage. It won't be now, but we're going to have one last chance at it. So, gee, I wonder what this is going to be. Nemesis Turn. I don't mind getting that broken up for a change. So, let's move up to Rageborne. Alright, so we start off by ticking down Invoke Carnage. That's not going to be a big problem, I don't think, as long as we don't get more Unleashing here. So let's see what we're getting from the Nemesis deck. So we either Unleash twice and Gravehold suffers 3 damage, or place the most recently discarded minion in the Nemesis discard pile back into play. That's going to put us with a big problem on our hands, though. I don't want to do... The problem is I don't want to do either one particularly. Because Unleashing twice and Gravehold suffering 3 damage means Rageborne strikes at the end of the Nemesis turn. But the most recent discard pile is going to cause problems... is going to cause a lot of problems in a big way, but we have a chance to duck that. So I think we take the chance to duck. Because we got to duck a Nemesis card. We have to duck... Actually, I think we have to duck... No, we have to duck 1 Nemesis card to get rid of Invoke Carnage. So I think we just put the Venomite back into play. Although I'd definitely rather put that back into play than Scorn, because Scorn was going to cause us big problems. So yeah. Alright, so that's all done. Let's move back up top now that we're through the Nemesis deck, through the turn order deck once again. Let's move back up top and see how things have changed. We achieved job 1 for Kadyr on the last round, so we managed to open her 3 breach, and we've got her prepared with all kinds of damage coming out of this next casting phase. Mist is also prepared with a decent amount of damage. She's got another 4 damage ready to go. But as we look up at Rageborne, we see we've got some problems coming, because Invoke Carnage is going to go off on the next Nemesis card if we have it come up right now. Which means somebody is going to take... means somebody's actually going to take 4 damage coming out of that. I'll probably have Kadyr take it. Just because she's a little higher. And then, then somebody's going to take another 2, because Venomite's actually going to hit lowest life. But I figured it was either that, or we Unleash twice, Gravehold suffers 3 damage, and take a chance of just getting rocked on that. So I figured we'd take the chance and try to duck it. So basically the situation we're in right now as we shuffle the turn order deck fresh is we need to duck 1 Nemesis card to deal with Invoke Carnage, 2 to kill the Venomite. Because I don't think 5, 6, 7, 8... I think we're going to come up just short. Kadyr can't quite kill the Venomite by herself, but she'll come very close. Let's see what we've got, though. Let's see how many Nemesis cards we duck. We've ducked at least 1, so we'll drop down to Kadyr and start round 7. I think this is with Kadyr. There is an argument to be made for actually starting to try to race here, but we're definitely gonna need to get a lot of spells in a hurry for that. But I think for now. We just go ahead and deal with this Venomite if we can. That's why we put it back into play rather than Unleashing twice, Gravehold suffering 3 damage, and getting a strike last turn. So we'll hit it for 1, 3. We'll hit the Venomite for 8 damage and bring it down to 1. and then hope we draw another, and then hope we draw a Mist before the Nemesis. So that'll bring the Venomite down to 1. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll get rid of Invoke Carnage, so that won't cause problems. And then that's a very uneventful turn for Kadir. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we see not a lot going on, actually. So it's going to be mostly buying stuff for Kadir next turn. Here's where I want to see player. Here's where I want to see player 1 come up, and let's go over to Mist. We go up to the Nemesis. Unfortunately, well, this isn't too terribly unfortunate. I just don't want to see the Nemesis again. I just don't want to see the Nemesis again until we have a turn for Mist. But let's move up to Rageborne. So we start off with the Venomite. The lowest player with the lowest life, which is Mist, suffers 2 damage. There's the 2 damage coming off of Mist, bringing her down to 5. Actually, just out of curiosity, right. Anyway, just taking a quick look at something off camera, but let's see what we get for the turn order deck. Just a pure curiosity thing. Yikes. To discard, spend 7 ether. Power 1. The player with the most charges suffers 4 damage and loses all of their charges. Uh-oh. Question is, do we have 7 ether? 2, 4, 6, 7. Mist does. Kadir does not. So that's going to be a big problem, which means I really want to see Mist come up here. Because we're going to have a big problem if the Nemesis comes up right now, we're going to have a big problem on our hands. Player 1, that's a relief. Okay, so we're going to duck everything. But let's go down to Mist and see how we're going to duck everything. Venomite go bye-bye from the Spark. We'll hit Rageborne for 3, bring him down to 37. And Kadir will gain a charge because of Ignite. And we may be able to pull this out of the fire. So we'll start by prepping the Ignite. And we'll have 7 to buy with. And then each player will reveal the top card and either discard it or return it. So up on the top of on the top of Mist's deck, we have Crystal, which go bye-bye. On top of Kadir's deck, Spark, which I think we need all the damage we can get right now, because now I think we need to start going into full race mode. So we're going to leave the Spark there. 2, 4, 6, 7. The Doom Aegis. The Doom Aegis will go away, which means we'll stop that from going off. We'll stack the discard like that. And then we'll have a Crystal joining it in the hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Will be another Ignite, a Leeching Aegis, a Garnet Shard, and a Crystal. Alright, so that will do it for Mist. We thankfully were able to duck everything. And now coming up, we have player 2, so let's move back down to Kadir. We actually have also moved into stage 3. So now we need to start working on either finishing off Rageborne or lasting through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards. Let's see if we can close this game out. Surprisingly, we haven't gotten too busted up. I think we'll start with prepping a Feral Lightning to a 4 breach. Then we'll gain a life from. Then we'll have Mist gain a life from the Emerald Shard. Bring her back up to 6. And then we've got 4 to buy with, which that 4 to buy with will give me. Actually, that'll give me an Ignite. Like I said, at this point, I just need to start getting as much damage as I can find. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're gonna have a lot of damage coming from this. But unfortunately, K-Deer's not going to be up again until we get through the turn order, through the Nemesis, through the turn order deck again. And we're going over to player 1 next. So we're going over to Mist. Okay, so we'll start off with an Ignite, hitting Rageborne for 3 and giving K-Deer her 4th charge. So there's the 4th charge for K-Deer. And then we'll take Rageborne down another 3. Down to 34. Then looking at her hand, we'll prep another Ignite. And I think we'll just use the 5 to buy her a Scorch. Alright, so we'll stack it like that. And we'll leave it like that. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, I think we can make this work and start doing some serious damage, but first we gotta survive another Nemesis turn, the last one on this run through the deck. So let's move up to Rageborne. We've managed to keep Rageborne's board clear all game. Hopefully this won't change that. Hopefully not be too perilous a card, but again, we are in stage 3, so pretty much everything's gonna be perilous at this point. Oh dear. Unleash twice. The player with the most open breaches, which is everybody, destroys 4 cards in hand or suffers 4 damage. Yowza. We could probably actually just have K-Deer take the 4 damage. The Unleash twice is going to be a bigger problem because we are getting struck at the... That means we're going to be getting struck at the end of this turn. So, let me look at who's got the fewest bad cards in hand. Right, the only thing I don't like about this is I'm going to lose 2 sparks from Mist, which could be a little bit of a problem. On the same token, I've got a lot of powerful stuff from K-Deer that I absolutely do not want to lose. So, I think at the risk of getting a bad strike, I think we're just going to destroy... Ugh. I think we are just going to destroy 4 cards in hand for Mist. Yeah, so we're gonna Mist destroy 4 cards in hand. That's unfortunate, but given that we're about to get struck here at the end of the Nemesis turn, I'd rather not take a risk on having somebody take a big hit and then the strike doing them in. So we'll go ahead and get the strike deck. Give this a quick shuffle. And a cut. And that'll be our strike card. We're getting struck. With an Eviscerate, the player with the lowest life suffers 2 damage, which is Mist. That could have gone a lot worse. If I would have had K-Deer take that, that would have been her and would have brought her down to 2. So now we'll shuffle that back in. Then Rageborne will lose 3 Fury tokens. And then we'll move back up top to look at the board state. We now have one very simple job. Close this game out as fast as we can. That means we're going to need to get a lot of damage in a hurry. So I think the way we're going to do that is we're going to work toward activating Mist's special ability again. Probably on K-Deer, I'm thinking. But we're going to need to get more. We're going to need to get spells everywhere. Rageborne right now is at 30. As we move back up, Rageborne is at 34 health. It's kind of hard to tell from here, but we know we've got some deadly cards coming because we are into stage 3 now. So again, we need to look at closing this game out as fast as we can. But let's grab the Nemesis Turn order deck. We'll give this a quick shuffle and see what we're starting with. Give that a cut. And we are starting off with the Nemesis. So let's move back up to Rageborne. I did also forget to mention Gravehold is at 11 health. But let's see what Rageborne is going to do to us here. This isn't that bad. Muster. Unleash twice, each minion in play gains 5 life. Because we've been keeping the board very clear, we don't have minions to worry about right now. So that's actually not terrible that could have happened. But let's see where we're going next from the turn order deck. Player 1, so let's drop down to Mist. Alright, Mist will start off with an Ignite, hitting Rageborne for another 3 to bring him down to 31. And then K-Deer will actually gain her last charge. Then we look at the Jade in her hand with 2 Ether, so we'll give Mist her 4th charge. That's a very uneventful turn after we had to destroy 4 cards in hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. This could be interesting. I might actually have somewhat of an interesting combo with the Sifter's Pearl here. I wonder. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how things turn out there, but that's all going to be moot if. For that to work, I would need Mist to go before K-Deer again, which is possible, but not likely. We have the Nemesis first, so at least we've gotten both the Nemesis cards out of the way now. But this could be very bad because we have three Fury tokens right now, and Unleash means we get struck again. So let's move up to Rageborne and hope we duck a bullet. All right, hopefully we're not going to get hit too hard coming out of this, but let's see what we get. Rolling Death. Oh, yikes. To discard, spend 8 Ether. Power 2, Rageborne strikes twice. Yowza. Fortunately, we're not going to have that ticking down until we get through the Nemesis deck. So we do sort of dodge a bullet. Question is, are we going to be able to do 31 damage to Rageborne in... basically in 3 turns plus however many we go through in the Nemesis, in the next run through the turn order deck. We'll have to find out, but let's see what we've got here. Player 2, so let's move over to K-Deer for her turn. I think full race mode really needs to begin now. So we'll start off with a Feral Lightning, and as we hit Rageborne for another 4. So that'll bring Rageborne down to 27. And as we look at K-Deer's hand, we'll do a lot of prepping. So we'll prep a Scorch to a 4 breach, a Spectral Echo to a 3 breach, a Spark to a 2 breach, and then we have 3 left to buy with, which I think that will get a... I think that'll get a Spectral Echo. Actually, yeah, I'm beginning to wonder if we just get ready to drop the hammer here. Because we have the Otherworldly Gate ready to go. The question is, who do I want to activate it on and when? I think I can wait one more turn here. Although I am getting ready to... Hang on, let me think about this. They return up to 3 spells to their discard pile, so these were all prepped. We bought the Spectral Echo for 3. Then may prep up to 2 spells to each of their opened breaches this turn. So that gets me back a Spectral Echo, a Feral Lightning, and an Ignite. Yeah, I think we just go ahead and do it now. So I think we activate it and use it on... And K-Deer will use it on herself. Come on. There we go. Trying to grab a charge token that fell out. Then we'll pull the Spectral Echo that we just bought, the Feral Lightning that we just cast, and the Ignite back to her hand. Then we can prep 2 spells to each breach this turn. So I will prep the Feral Lightning to her 4 breach, Spectral, and actually a Spectral Echo to her 3 breach, not that it really matters, and an Ignite to her 2 breach. So we'll go ahead and draw back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yeah, Rageborne is definitely getting rocked on Kadyr's next turn. Let's see what we get out of the turn order deck, though. Let's rock Rageborne. So, we'll give the charge to... So we'll make sure Mist gets the charge. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We get to destroy 2 cards in hand if we want to, but I don't think we do. So that's 3. Another 6 for 10. 16. 21 damage. So Rageborne's down to 6. We'll stack it like that. We'll prep 2 sparks. And then we've got 5 left to buy with, which will be another Scorch. We'll stack it like so. And then we'll draw back up 2 more crystals and 3. Emerald Shard, a Jade, and a Crystal. And gee, I wonder what the player won. Okay. So let's move back over to Mist and we'll see what she's doing. Alright, so we see a very uneventful breach roster for Mist. We'll start off by prepping an Ignite to a 4 breach, a Spark to a 3 breach, and then we've got 5 Ether to buy with, 2 of which is going to be a Sifter's Pearl. So the top card of a Mist's deck is a Leeching Agate, which I'll leave. Then on the top of Kadyr's deck, a Crystal, which I will discard. So for 5, I will grab Mist of Feral Lightning as well. Then we will stack the rest of it like that. Then we'll draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got Ether and a bunch of damage. So with that, let's move back up top to look at the board. Alright, so we have Rageborne down to 6 health, but our position isn't as safe as I would like it to be. We have enough damage prepped right now between our 2 Magi to kill Rageborne. But we also have Gravehold still at 11 health. I'll bring in the dial real quick. None of our supply piles are in danger of being emptied. But let's move up to Rageborne because we have a few problems up there. Namely, we have Rolling Death. So if we end up getting 2 Nemesis turns, Mist can't deal with it, but we might have to use her ability to try to send Kadyr into her deck for a little more Ether, although she's got 6 right now, so if we have to, we can send Kadyr into her deck to try to find the Ether to deal with that Rolling Death. Basically, I just don't want to get struck twice, because it's way too easy to have everything go haywire on us right now. So, like I said, we've got everything ready to go. We need to do some combination of duck or survive 2 Nemesis cards. The problem is that second Nemesis card that second Nemesis turn we're gonna have to duck, that we're gonna have to survive, is also going to come with 2 strikes. So that's potentially very dangerous. But let's grab this. We'll give the turn order deck a shuffle. And let's see what we've got. So first up, we have player 2. I was hoping to get her into her deck a little bit more to try to find Ether, but we'll have to move down and we'll see what Kadyr is doing. Kadyr will start off in her casting phase with 2 Sparks prepped to +1 breaches. She'll hit Rageborne for 4. bringing Rageborne down to 2. And then we will we have 6 ether to buy with, or 5 and a player gains a life. I think just for safety's sake, I am going to use the Emerald Shard to have Mist gain a life, so that's going to bring her up to 5. And then for 5, we'll go ahead and buy another Scorch. Alright, and then we stacked it. Yep, we stacked it with the Jade on the deepest into the discard pile. Okay, good. 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got plenty of damage coming. So if this is a player 1 card, Rageborne's dead right here. It is player 1. Let's move over to Mist. Alright, we risked it for a biscuit and we got there. So we'll use Spark to deal the last 2 points of damage to Rageborne, bringing him down to 0. And we managed to duck 2 Nemesis cards on that last run through the turn order deck. So we have defeated Rageborne. So with that, let's move back up top to wrap this video up. That was a little bit of a nail biter. I thought we were going to be short on damage there at the start of the game. I didn't think we were going to have enough firepower there, but we managed to pull it out in the end. So that will do it for this playthrough of Aeon's End. Next week we'll continue with another deck builder, but this time we'll move into space as we play Star Realms on the channel. Thank you for watching this video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.